It's me, Nolan, with another episode of the Knowledge of Nolan series. And for today's episode, it's about one of my favorite board games, chess! This is kind of like a beginner lesson of chess. Some of you might know how to play chess, but for those of you who don't know how to play chess, then I'll teach you like how the pieces move and what they are. I will give you some strategy tips too of how to maybe win against your opponent. No, I am not going to teach you how to cheat. I'm going to demonstrate on my Mario board, then I'm going to show you what the actual piece looks like on a classic board, for example, the pawn. First, the pawn, because I just showed you, for example, it looks like a mountain, as I like to say, because, it's kind of shaped like a mountain. And here's what it is on the white side, and the black side, it's just black, So, on my Mario chess set, it's a gold coin. But on the other side, it would be a Koopa shell, if you have a Mario chess set like me. So, it's only in the front row, and there's 8 of them. So, the pawns, they can only move one space forward. The only 3 exceptions is that if it's on your first turn of moving the pawn, then you can only move, then that's the only time that you can move 2 spaces. Otherwise, it can only move one space forward, not backward, not side to side, not diagonal. But the only time it can move diagonal is when it's capturing another piece from the other team. Like that. Whoop, you captured it. And only one space. It can't, let's say it's over here. You can't just whoop and move over there to get it. You have to actually, it has to be one space away to capture. So now the rook. The rook on my Mario chessboard would look like Toad, or on the other side it would be a Goomba. And on a classic chessboard it would look like a tower, or on the white side, same thing, just a tower or a castle, whichever one. And the rook can move as many spaces as you want, but if you have something right here, you cannot just keep going on after you capture something. Like, let's say there's something from the other team, another pawn right there, and you capture it. You can't just keep moving on the board. You have to stop whenever you capture something. So, the rook, you can move as many number of spaces as you want, like I just said, but you have to stop when you capture. So, you can move up, down, left, and right. Up, down, left, right. I'm gonna move my feet tonight like nobody's watching. If you know that song, then you know the rook moves. One more thing. It cannot move diagonal. That's the only thing. It cannot move diagonal. Remember that. Next is the knight. On my Mario chessboard, it looks like Yoshi. Or on the other side, it would look like, I forget what her name is, but this girl. And otherwise, it would look like a horse. Hey! Because what do knights ride on? A horse! And on the black side, it looks no different. So, the knight, or the horse, it's a very cool piece because it is the only piece that can jump over other pieces. But pretty much the only rule about the knight is that it has to move in an L shape. So, the knight can basically move any combination of 2 and 1 or 1 and 2. It just has to move in an L shape. L. It can move over, up, over, anywhere really, as long as it's an L shape, and it can move 2, 1, 1, 2, as long as it's a combination of 1 and 2, and it's an L shape or 2 and 1. So, the next piece is the bishop! It looks like Peach on my Mario chessboard, and on the other side it looks like Daisy. Both princesses, and then it looks like Magic Koopa or Kamek on the other side. And then it looks like this, the one with a little mouth, on a classic chessboard. See the little mouth? Bah, bah, bah. It can talk. So that is the piece. It cannot jump like the knight, but it can only move diagonal. So as you can see, while you have two bishops, like any other piece except for the queen and the king, you would have one on the white spaces to go on any white space, but it has to go straight diagonal like that. Any amount of spaces you want. And then you have one on the blue spaces to move on any blue space. But the only thing you can't do with the bishop is move like the rook. Up, down, left, and right. The other thing that you can't do is move diagonal and then move this way in one turn. That has to be two turns if you change direction. So that's pretty much it for the bishop. Next two pieces is the king and the queen. So you know that Luigi or Bowser Jr. aren't queens to the king, Bowser, Mario, right? So, but that's how they name them in this chess board. So, as I just said, the king is Mario or Bowser on the other side, and then the queen would be Luigi, or on the other side, Bowser Jr. So then on a classic chessboard, this would be the king and this would be the queen. Just the only weird thing about the setup of the king and queen is, as you can see, the queen is lined up with the other king and the king is lined up with the other queen. That's the only weird thing about the setup of the king and queen. So the king can only move one space any direction. It can move diagonal, it can move pretty much anywhere, just only one space. And the queen, it can move any space, anywhere, pretty much, but as many as you want. So it can move diagonal, it can move up, it can move down, it can move left, it can move right, it can move anywhere. And the number of spaces it can move is, just like I said, as many as you want. But the only thing is, if you capture it, like, once again, you have to stop, like the rook, knight, or any other piece. Like, let's say, okay, let me line this up like that. So, if you move, you can't just keep going on. And if you move here, you can't just keep moving on. So, that's pretty much about the queen and the king. So, now you know how all the pieces are set up, what they look like on a classic chessboard and my Mario chessboard, and the pieces they can move, and some cool strategy tricks about them. So, well, wait, I forgot some of the strategy tricks. So okay. Now, just one more thing. What happens after you capture? Well, what happens after you capture? So after you capture something, like, let's say, knight and pawn. Oh wait, I've used pawn so many times for example of capture. How about rook and pawn and knight? So, the rook and the knight. So, if you have it set up like this, you cannot capture it with the knight, but the rook can capture you. So, if it's in that setup, then it's just a matter of whose turn it is, who can capture it, because you can't capture him right here because you jump over him, right? So, if you capture it, if it was like this, he would go and capture him. So, you would have to move the piece onto your side on the edge of the chessboard or off the chessboard if it's a classic smaller chessboard. Can you bring a piece back in? A lot of people have asked me. No, but the only way that you can technically bring a piece back in is if your pawn gets to the end of the board, you can turn it into any piece you want, or you can keep it a pawn. But if you keep it a pawn, then you really can't move it anywhere. So that's pretty much the only way that you can move a piece back in. But if you, let's say your queen's captured and you turn your pawn into a queen at the end of the board, then you can bring that queen back in from the other team's capture area and put that pawn instead of it. But you can just keep it as a pawn and say that's the queen. So how do you win chess? It's this simple. All you have to do is capture the other person's king. It's not a game of last man standing like checkers. But the other way to win chess is checkmate. There's a pretty big difference between check and checkmate because, they're different words, right? Check, checkmate. So the difference between check and checkmate. Check is basically a warning. So when you say check to the other person, then that means that it's a warning that, in my next move, then I'll capture you. I'll capture your king, and it'll be in your best interest to move out of the way if you don't want to lose. And checkmate is basically saying, I won, because if you basically cornered the other person's king, and there's no other way that they can move out of the way, so then you don't capture them. Like, they're just cornered. Like, the game's over, you've won, like, they can't move anywhere. Guys, I hope this is helpful, and good luck on your next chess game! And thanks for watching another episode of the Knowledge of Nolan series. Bye, guys!